Hello everybody, welcome to this quick video previewing Game Week 34. Should I say blank Game Week 34 or should I say free hit blank Game Week 34? Yes, it seems to be the optimization of using the free hit this particular game week, which makes complete sense. Obviously, there's a lot of people with a lot of assets that were playing in double Game Week 33, double Game Week 32, specifically Crystal Palace and Man City. But there will be teams out there with the likes of Aston Villa assets, Arsenal assets. The point being is that there are a lot of teams out there which are going to be devastated, which is good for me. Which is good for rivals' point of view. Who was it? Was it Mr. Reed or is it Dan? I can't remember now. They're stuffed. They're absolutely stuffed when it comes to this blank Game Week 34. I've already looked at their teams. It's great. This is great. As he says in extras, as Greg says, this is great. Up on screen at the moment is the ultimate free hit team that apparently FPL Review and all the other, AI algorithm-based sites are recommending. And what is that, Steve-O? Allison in goal, Livramento, Shaw, Ait-Nouri, Diaz, Palmer and Bournemouth, Salah, Murphy, Isaac, Cunha, Wood. In all seriousness, this is predominantly what it seems that most of these, I don't even know what to call them. I genuinely don't even know what to call these websites, these team building websites. You could easily replace Cucurella with not Robinson, with Sessegnon. Easily do that. But this is apparently, give or take, what a algorithm is suggesting should be most people's your free hit if you can do. So looking at it there, so it's obviously the triple up of Liverpool, in which they can wrap up the title if they beat Spurs, which they will do, or they should do. Like Nick said it's like Triggerlip said on Gary's stream, they get an early goal. We need an early goal in that game. First 10 minutes. If that's the case, bang, we're off to the races. However, if it's 0-0 by half time and it gets a bit nervy, at that point it's great, we're in for a 1-0 win, 1-1. Edge of your seat stuff. But yeah, obviously with Allison being in goal, could potentially get save points. The double Newcastle defence up against Ipswich, who ironically do better away from home, so I wouldn't be surprised if they score, but I understand the reasoning as to why it's going with double Newcastle defence. Even though I've just realised there, I don't know why it has allowed me to do this. I've got 4 Newcastle players, so maybe if I just take out Shaw and replace him with Sessegnon, maybe that will look a bit more sexy. Oh, can't be using that word, Steve. I've got to block that out, apparently. Can't say the word sex. It's mental, isn't it? Can't be using words like that. So there we are. That's cleaned it up a bit. Sessegnon for being an out of position forward for Fulham. You've then got Diaz, who's just consistently playing in the first team. His first choice for Liverpool, we know this. Salah stating the obvious. You've then got Palmer. I'm constantly doing an impression of Trigger Lips. Palmer. He's just, I think a lot of these are just shields, if I'm honest with you. And Bournemouth's the interesting one. I'm wondering if Bournemouth's there because of what he did against Brighton the other day. Probably. Because Nottingham Forest isn't an easy game. And then Isaac Cunha Wood, I don't even need to talk about. Murphy as well, I don't need to talk about. I look at that algorithm-based team. I think it's okay. It's solid enough. Is there any players there where I think, oh God, I wish I had them? Maybe Bournemouth and Diaz. Bournemouth and D is at a push, but only because the FOMO. The good old FOMO. But when you look at my actual team, as I've discussed to death, doesn't look much different, does it? I mean, yes, it's got double Nottingham Forest defence because that's what me and Ray, well, I say unfortunately, but fortunately, the way we planned this was to have a team for game week 34. Rather than free hitting, which we discussed last night, or I talked about last night, regarding the fact I came away with it pretty much give or take the same points as a lot of my rivals with 71 who play bench boost. I play free hit. The people playing free hit, which players will they have instead of me? Well, if we're basing it on some website that predicts or gives you advice on what players to go for, it's Alisson versus Areola. I mean, I think we can all agree who wins on that. So it'd be a 3-5-2 formation for FPL review if we're gonna shit on them. It's Milenkovic, Murillo versus, well, it doesn't really matter who it versus because Trippier up against Livramento, Ait-Nouri up against Ait-Nouri, Murillo / Milenkovic up against Sessegnon. But then it's the midfield choice, isn't it? So let's just say Diaz versus Milenkovic. Again, I'd argue that the review team comes out on top. Then it's Palmer versus Palmer, Murphy versus Murphy, Salah versus Salah. And then we got Semenyo. Now, Semenyo up against versus and Bournemouth. So Bournemouth at home to Man United. Now I know Trigger Lips again on Gary's stream. I'm going to constantly keep referencing that because I can. Was saying how actually Man United could get a result in that game because they're not playing in the Europa League. And fair point. Fair point. Bournemouth at the moment on the beach. Their recent results have, well, they've been poor. They've won once in the last 6. And that win was at home to Fulham, 1-0. Now the draw, I think, is looking most likely in this particular fixture. There's been 3 draws against the last 6. A 0-0 against Crystal Palace. A 2-2 against West Ham. And then we also had, once it decides to load up, a 2-2 against Tottenham. So hopefully, in a 2-2 draw, Semenyo could come through with something. Man United away from home are terrible. They've only scored 17 goals away from home, conceded 20. Last 2 fixtures they've lost 4-1 to Newcastle. They lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. But they've actually won more games than Bournemouth across the last 6. You just have to replace the draws with losses for Man United. But overall, having a Bournemouth attacker against Man United ain't too bad. But looking at Bournemouth's recent home form, it's been absolutely shocking. Won 2 out of the last 6. Lost 4. Those losses being 2-1 against Ipswich. 2-1 against Brentford. 1-0 against Wolves. And then 2-0 against Liverpool. So basically, I think this game has got some goals in it. And you never know, Semenyo being a key man in that Bournemouth team could potentially come away with something. I've seen a few people with free hits maybe going with Kluivert. Then, of course, up top, it's Cunha and Isaac. So again, we've got Chris Wood in there if it's a 3-4-3. If it's a 3-5-2, does Chris Wood drop to the bench? I don't know. I see his wife has given birth. Does that mean anything? Will he score? And he does the old pretend he's got a child in his arms. I don't know. Overall, with this team, my normal regular team, which will be being used for blank game week 34, I think that I'm relatively comfortable. Again, a bit like going up with the free hit versus bench boosters. I'm relatively okay with this. It's just the Liverpool game that really scares me, because Tottenham could be there for the taking. Could be there for the taking. Now, away from home, they make Man United look good. They've lost 4 out of the last 6 away from home, conceded 4 against Wolves, conceded 1 against Chelsea, conceded 2 against Fulham. These are all in the losses. Conceded 3 against Everton. In the 2 wins, they conceded 1 against Ipswich in a 4-1 win, and they kept a clean sheet, ironically a clean sheet against Brentford. Those games between Liverpool and Tottenham, I'm pretty certain, are high scoring. I am going to look at the head-to-head because it's always interesting looking at the head-to-heads between these two, but I'm pretty certain these games are usually end-to-end or got goals in them. And as I'm proven right here, right now, I am right. Apart from one game which is a complete anomaly, which was in the League Cup this year. Liverpool 4, Tottenham 3, Tottenham 2, Liverpool 1, Liverpool 4, Tottenham 2, Tottenham 3, Liverpool 6, Tottenham 1, Liverpool 0. The last time these two played at home, or more specifically Anfield, was in the League Cup, when Liverpool won 4-0, and it was, read them out with me, Mohamed Salah assisting Gakpo. Salah had a penalty, and then we've got Conor Bradley assisting Szoboszlai and McAllister assisting Van Dijk. And let's just hope that's the same thing, because I think captaincy is going to be the interesting one this game week. I think that the safety / shield is going to be Salah. I'd already earmarked Salah as going to be my captain for this game week anyway. Other picks, of course, could be a Wolves asset. Cunha. Strand Larsen is a player. Strand Larsen's a player that I haven't seen many people mentioning, but I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if he went and outdid Cunha in this. Even though Cunha, well, I mean, it's like Nick said, isn't it? You know, the way FPL is, we all go for that probability of X player going to do well, and it always backfires and it does the complete opposite. So, for argument's sake, we all expect Cunha to do well at Leicester. He does nothing, and it's actually Strand Larsen who barely anybody touches. Now, if you're really, really cheeky, you could go with a double up of Cunha and Strand Larsen. I think that's probably better than Chris Wood, personally. Strand Larsen in the last several game weeks, barring Man United away, 1 goal against Tottenham, 1 goal against Ipswich, 1 goal against West Ham, 2 goals against Southampton. So a player in form. A player in form. So certainly, like I state, if you want to be really, really punty, and you're doing a 3-4-3, Strand Larsen, Cunha double up could be a really profitable game plan. Leicester, as I've mentioned, along with all the other crappy lower league teams, it's a case of now we're just seeing how we can do before we go down into the Championship. Hello, look at me. I'm ready to be bought up by a Premier League team because we're going down. Hello, look at me. I want to stay in this team in the Championship and get us back promoted. Ipswich last 3 games, they lost 2-1 to Wolves. They drew 2-2 with Chelsea. And they lost 4-0 to Arsenal. Leicester, they lose 1-0 to Liverpool. They draw 2-2 with Brighton. These are just the last 3 games. And they lost 3-0 to Newcastle. And then Southampton 1-1 against West Ham. And then a couple of losses there, which were 3-0 against Aston Villa and 3-1 against Tottenham. So as always, I've been proven wrong. But I still maintain the fact that I think that there's a few teams sitting on the beach at the moment because, to be completely frank, there's nothing much to play for. They've kind of almost given like the likes of Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, you could argue. Because the likes of Aston Villa and Chelsea have completely pulled away. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford. They're all just sitting on the beach now. Just their games, let's just have fun. You look at Bournemouth's fixtures last 3. They've drawn 2, lost 1-1, 0-0 against Crystal Palace, 2-2 against West Ham, and the win was 1-0 against Fulham. You then got Fulham, who lost 2-1 against Chelsea. Obviously, the 1-0 against Bournemouth, and they beat Liverpool of all teams 3-2. Brighton haven't even won a game in the last 5 fixtures. Those last 3 being a loss of 4-2 against Brentford, scoring 2 again against Leicester in a draw, and then losing 2-1 to Crystal Palace. And then Brentford, a bit like Bournemouth, haven't lost, but not really won, drawn 2-1-1. That 4-2 win against Brighton, and then 1-1 against Arsenal, and 0-0 against Chelsea. They're just playing for fun. They're just playing. This is like the same as Wolves are the most informed team at the moment. Look at that. 5 wins in a row. 5 wins. In fact, looking at the form table here, Wolves top it. 16 points over the last 6. Newcastle, then Aston Villa, then Liverpool. That right at the bottom of the list. So Leicester at the bottom, conceding 10 goals in the last 6 fixtures, only scored twice. You've then got, so that a double up in Wolves' defence could be very profitable. Southampton across the last 6 have scored 5, conceded 13. Sorry, I should have said that was a minus 10 goal difference. So Southampton conceded 13, Leicester has conceded 12. West Ham, they haven't conceded many. They don't score many. They only scored 5 in the last 6. They've got a pattern going on. Loss, draw, loss, draw, loss, draw. And I expect them to lose against Brighton. Brighton are another team. They're scoring a few, but conceding a lot. Scored 9, conceded 14. Ipswich have conceded 14. Crystal Palace conceded 14. So we're looking at the form team here for blank game week teams. Wolves are top. Then it's Newcastle. Then it's Liverpool. Then it's Nottingham Forest. Brentford are in there, down to 9th in the form table. Then Fulham in 10th. So, really, looking based on form table and whatnot, like I said, my team's not looking too bad. It's mainly, like I state, some of these players that are those slight differentials against people like me in and Bournemouth. Because for me, as I stated, I'm not going to be. If I'm doing a free hit, I'm avoiding Chelsea, Everton. I'm probably avoiding Brighton at West Ham. I'm tripling up on Newcastle versus Ipswich. I'm doubling up minimum on Wolves. I'm tripling up on Liverpool. So that's already, like I said, 3 Liverpool, 4-5 Wolves, 6-7-8 Newcastle, which leaves me 9-10-11, 3 spots for a Fulham player. And then, like I stated, maybe in Bournemouth, something like whatever combinations you go with. But overall, going into this specific game week, I'm quite happy going up against these free hitters. I still think I'm going to be down by. I don't think, I'm going to come out like I did against the bench boosters with an equal score, if not slightly better, if not slightly worse. I think coming out of this game week, depending on how the likes of Sessegnon perform, because like I state, a lot of people on this free hit are going to be going with Sessegnon. It's going to be like the likes of Sessegnon. How does he perform? How does the combination of whatever Wolves players people have got perform against Leicester? The combination of Liverpool, well, taking Salah aside, and probably Diaz, who's that one extra Liverpool player, how are they going to perform? Are people going to punt on Jota, Gakpo, Trent Alexander-Arnold? Newcastle, once again, which defenders are going to come out on top, which midfielder is going to come out on top between Harvey Barnes and Jacob Murphy? Because I still don't think Gordon starts. I know Triggerlips was keen on him starting, but I don't think he does. I don't think you drop Harvey Barnes. He's performing really well. Or Jacob Murphy. Team's going to stay the same. There's a chance that Isaac may get dropped, but I doubt it. Bournemouth, Man United, once again. Who are we looking at here? Semenyo, Kluivert. People going to be touching Man United. Maybe Jason on his free hit, if he's playing his free hit. Then, of course, once we move into game week 35, what are people's teams looking like coming out of that? So again, it's, we've got Aston Villa players against Fulham. We got the Arsenal players against Bournemouth. Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest. And then Man City players against Wolves. But by the time we get round to 36, me and Ray are going to have, if I can do my maths right, three free transfers in 36. And we could do a hit if we want to for the bench boost. I'm already pretty adamant on Brennan Johnson. In fact, I'm potentially adamant on Brennan Johnson being Captain Ray, if you're listening. In that double. If they get the double. But yeah. All I can say is, looking at the fixtures here. You know, if we're going through our predictions, if you will, I think a lot of these are pretty straightforward to call, I'd argue. Chelsea, Everton, tight, horrible game. I'd like to think Chelsea will come out on top 1-0, 2-1, 2-0. Brighton, West Ham. Brighton are going to, I think, 3-0. 3-0, 3-1. Newcastle, Ipswich should be a walkover. I'd like to think 4-0, but again, Ipswich away from home. They aren't as bad as what they are at home. They're still shit, but I would not be surprised if they were to score. But like I stated, I'll probably go with a 3-0 in the Super Brew. Southampton, Fulham, 2-1 Fulham. Wolves, Leicester. Should be 2. It should be a clean sheet here. But I'll probably predict 2-1 to Wolves. Bournemouth, Man United. I'll go with a 2-1 Bournemouth win. Liverpool, Spurs. 3-1. And then Nottingham Forest, Brentford. Again, I'll probably go with they'll probably cancel each other out in a 1-1. Talking of the Super Brew, I noticed that FPL Bailey has now dropped from second in the whole world down to, I don't know what's happened with him. He's completely fallen off a cliff. Whereas people like Lino and Ray have now stormed up above Bailey. It's absolutely crazy. So well done to them. Well done. Good luck to you. Let's get out of here. See you later.